Hi, this is Andy Hoffman of CryptoGoldCentral.com, which publishes a daily cryptocurrency blog and provides professional crypto consulting to individuals and altcoin developers alike. Today, I have a very special guest that I'm looking forward to speaking with, Patrick Ulrich of, is it Ulrich or Ulrich?
Ulrich.
Ulrich of Lexington Bitcoin Consulting, who also serves as an ambassador for Dlive, the new video streaming network I started using last month. Patrick sought me out when I signed up for Dlive at the prompting of who else but Adam Meister. And since then, I've come to realize how intelligent he is, powerfully representing the youth movement that will ultimately dominate the emerging digital age. To that end, Patrick, welcome to One-on-One.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you having me.
Okay, and I'm just checking my sound settings. Perfect. I don't want to have the issue I had a week or two ago. Okay. Well, normally I start with a discussion about current crypto market conditions. But in this case, I'm going to save it for later on, which was quite the difficult decision given this morning's terrible crypto flash crash. Normally, okay, where am I? I just took a nap. However, given Patrick's unique background and the specific topics we plan to discuss, I don't want the podcast to immediately devolve to a discussion of what's wrong with Bitcoin. I promise to get to today's drama, or better put, hodling non-event, in the show's final segment. But before that, I have a variety of important issues to discuss, as not only are Steem and Dlive a potentially significant part of social media's future, but in the wake of recent censorship issues at Facebook, YouTube, and other mainstream networks, there has never been a more opportune time to explore them. You hear that, Alex Jones? To that end, I have not only utilized Steem for the past 15 months, but purchased it for the first time this weekend, as discussed in an article I posted Saturday morning, or Sunday maybe, on, yep, you guessed it, Steemit. So let's start with some background information so you can understand who Patrick is and how he came to be a Bitcoin consultant and Dlive ambassador. Patrick, tell us about when you first came across crypto and what has your crypto journey looked like since, personally and professionally?
So I couldn't even tell you the first time I actually came across Bitcoin. I'd heard about it on some different forums online. I came from a fairly libertarian background, I guess you would say. And I remember just seeing people talk about sound money and this new technology that was out called Bitcoin. So as I started hearing about it, just looking into it, but I kept pushing it off. It's gonna be a while out before it grown. And overnight it went up and up and up. Leading into 2013, I made my first real purchases, I believe. And then even in 2015, went on to start my first Bitcoin company, doing none other than Bitcoin ATMs here for the local market in Lexington. And ever since then, kind of been involved with Bitcoin ever since. During that same time, I started sharing Bitcoin-related news segments on Google Plus to one of their collection systems until one morning I woke up and found that my collection was actually banned from the Google Plus network due to a user content agreement violation. And couldn't really figure out why. There was nobody I could reach out to talk to. Google's just a big company that they really wouldn't have anything to say with me. So that led me to me looking for alternatives to share my information. And that brought me back to Steemit, which I found out maybe a year before that.
And before you get to the Steemit part, I'm just curious because I looked at your Google like agglomeration or blog page. I did not see anything on it that was particularly I'm not even sure what the word is, offensive to the status quo. Certainly not more offensive than what I've done.
Yeah, I've still never had an answer to exactly what it is. The best guess I can come up with is there was a hackers conference that was coming up. And so there was something like the gleam.io things where you share and get people to do submissions. And so I shared a link to that. And that was the last post prior to the banning, even though that had been a couple of days before. So I'm not sure if that was necessarily it or what could have been the reasoning for the suspension, but I never understood that. Eventually I got it back after meeting with a couple people that I made connections with that were able to line it up for me. But I still have never had an answer. It was just one of those that, okay, you're back in now. And there was no explanation to why I was gone in the first place.
And obviously, we're going to talk about this censorship issue in a moment, but this is exactly what I've seen in the precious metal space too, just complete random censorship. And let's face it, we are not in a sector that the powers that be, let's call them, like.
Correct. I'm with you 100% there.
You're an unfavorable asset is how I put
it. Completely agree.
Okay, so how did you get to Steemit?
So I got to Steemit just from that very part. I had signed up for an account a year prior, but never really, unfortunately, took a look into it at the time. I had a lot of concerns about the way that there was early mining, and a lot of the early coverage that was made towards Steem just really stuck with me, that it wasn't something I wanted to look into much. But once I ran into a situation where I had no other choice other than turning to Twitter, which also turned out to be a great space for crypto content, I decided I really wanted something that was crypto based. So that led me into Steemit. Started posting there just little random odds and ends along the same lines of what I used to do on Google Plus, until earlier this year I found out about Dlive, and that's where I've really found my home on the Steem chain, is posting a lot of video content to Dlive, anything from gaming to crypto to even me sitting down trying to learn coding.
Right. Well, and we're going to get to that in a second. I want to get a little background. I'll just say with Steem, people know me as, I guess you'd call it a Bitcoin maximalist. I hate that term though, because to me, maximalism means really in terms of money. There will never be another crypto that can serve as money the way Bitcoin can. Certainly not for the big institutions and governments that they ultimately will hold them in their portfolios. But I've also been extremely cautious because of what I've seen in the past, especially precious metals, 15 years. There's the difference between physical metal and the derivatives and the mining stocks. And I've always said, I've learned after all these years, after many significant issues, to hold primarily the big kahuna Bitcoin, because it has the best risk reward profile. And it's the only one that has no risk of going away. So within that context, I've evolved my views. I was more of a strict Bitcoin maximalist, whereas I almost believed that nothing else could survive. At some point, there were times though where I thought, that's kind of ridiculous, because there's going to be a big crypto economy, and it's evolved to a point where I do believe that while most altcoins are useless, pump and dumps, that there are some that do things, and in the future there'll be many that do things useful. And the way I look at it time and time again is the only one aside from Bitcoin, and I guess you could say Ethereum, that really does anything material is Steem. And so when people say that it's a scam because it had a pre-mine, I think that's ridiculous. It serves a useful purpose. The initial investors got to live it, because that's what happens in capital markets. You find a company, you become one of the original insiders or venture capitalists or officers, you get a lot of the product. It's just that simple. But we'll get to that in a second. So now I'm going to get to a bigger picture topic before we get specifically back into Steem and Dlive. So in my view, the reason Bitcoin must ultimately win, against legacy assets, stocks, bonds, precious metals, you name it, is because the world's youth will want nothing to do with archaic, impractical, abused, and/or manipulated legacy assets like stocks, bonds, currencies, and precious metals, which are becoming obsolete as the digital age unfolds. And so I believe that millennials and Gen Zs and beyond, who are brought up on computers, will embrace Bitcoin as the new anchor of global money and innovate the crypto space the way industrialists innovated the harnessing of electricity and the assembly line, etc. So Patrick, tell us how you, as someone of a post-Gen X generation, views cryptocurrency relative to legacy assets and even fiat currencies in terms of their ability or inability to one day replace them.
I'm completely on board with the replacement of them. I see it, to me, as a situation where sound money looks for something that is both scarce and has a production schedule that is known and not going to change. It's not fluctuative, and that outside of that, the best money I could see that was from the old world would be gold. At least with that, you have a semi understanding of what's going to be there. But my partner this morning even shared a article from space.com where apparently the I forget what geological surveys actually going to be looking to try to mine these different asteroids to potentially bring back gold and other natural resources. And with that in mind, that just shows to me the lack of stability even in traditional safe haven assets such as gold or precious metals. And then as far as stocks, that's just a big laughing ground to me. As you can see, the manipulation that happens where the same bill of goods is sold multiple times. So while that can definitely happen with Bitcoin, you can always at least demand payment with the underlying asset. And there should be no reason why you couldn't deliver on that if you actually do maintain ownership of it.
Yeah, absolutely. You touched on many things, and obviously, I'm not even sure if you're aware of my background of being one of the big precious metal community leaders for 15 years, and specifically regarding manipulation. So yes, I've kind of become an expert on manipulation of legacy markets, and I'm talking about all of them. And yes, they have been, as I wrote before, they've been abused and manipulated. There are many, many times more paper gold assets that representing the actual gold there. And more importantly, I think the world is changing so that people don't care about gold anymore in the world of Bitcoin. As for stocks and bonds, I think that they too have become archaic and abused, and that they will be replaced by things like ICOs once they are engineered to work better than the original crop. It's funny also you brought up the mining of space, because again, you're bringing, it sounds like you have a limited knowledge, but you're bringing up of this topic, but you bring up all the most important points, because of course you can't mine gold in space cost effectively. For one, if the price of gold would have to be probably 100 times more to even think about it. And then of course you'd have to find it and bring it back. But if there actually was that much gold in space, if someone discovered it and said, yeah, we can economically bring it back to Earth, then it would destroy the price because there'd be too much supply out there. So again, the point is that, again, no one really knows how much gold is out there. There are estimates that say there's about $7 trillion worth of it, but who knows how much is actually held, how much paper derivatives are backing it, how much is available for sale. The banks don't even audit themselves. The GLD ETF has never been audited. The U.S. Treasury holdings haven't been audited since 1950. So again, it's a whole, a disgusting web of manipulation of an asset that I don't think people want much anymore. So again, I think you give a very good view of how younger people view things, because I'm guessing that pretty much, everyone who's under 40 and most people under 30 and 20, or I should say anyone who's under 20 and most people under 30 and 40 are starting to think that way. So when one speaks of Bitcoin's most valuable traits, unquestionably the conversation starts with, among other things, decentralization and uncensorability. To that end, I believe decentralization of everything from governments to financial institutions is the future, including, of course, social media. Social media has many pros and cons, but cumulatively has had a very positive impact on society. However, one of its key weaknesses is the centralization that enables its management teams to selectively ban, demonetize, or otherwise censor content, which recently has become a scandal so large, particularly regarding leaders like Google with YouTube and Facebook, it is being investigated by Congress, which is quite ironic. In Facebook's case, the economic damage is less obvious, but in YouTube's, it has been devastating to many content providers, which is why, among other reasons, I have been so supportive of Steemit, which not only provides censor-free content platform, but enables content providers to be paid in the Steem cryptocurrency, which can be held onto as an investment or exchanged for Bitcoin. Until recently, I've always converted my Steem and Steem-backed dollars to Bitcoin. However, as noted above, I this weekend purchased a Bit2, my first altcoin purchase since Litecoin more than a year ago. That said, I sold my Litecoin for Bitcoin when I deemed it had no potential to outperform Bitcoin, as opposed to Steem, which I plan to hold because I believe Steemit could ultimately take significant market share from YouTube. To that end, having Patrick here is extremely timely, as not only is he a Steem expert, but an ambassador from the brand new Steem-like content provider, Dlive. Dlive is just like Steem from a use case perspective, but only for audio video content, and is actually linked to Steem so that all Dlive content is automatically uploaded to one Steem page. Patrick, first I'd like you to tell the audience how you came to be a part of Dlive, and then what advantages it has over and synergies to Steem. Also, if someone attacks Steem and Dlive as being centralized and thus subject to censure, how would you refute such accusations?
So the first part, just to make sure there's an awareness of it, Steem or Dlive is actually built on the Steem blockchain itself. While the content is hosted on Dlive servers, the linking material is stored on the Steem blockchain. So they're not one and the same, but at the same time, they are connected. The way I actually came across it, though, is earlier in the year, I was going through Steem and just becoming more involved with the community and trying to really understand how things worked. One of the trending posts that happened, I believe, around December was the launch of a new network that was going to try to bring audio and video to the Steem blockchain. And at the time, it didn't make a lot of sense to me because my understanding of Steem was that the blockchain itself only stored the plain text files of anything that was uploaded. There was actually no way to upload the picture directly to Steem. There is no way to upload video, so it didn't make a lot of sense how it would be implemented.
Right.
But
you could upload a link to a video, but you can't upload a video.
Exactly. And so it really kind of intrigued me. So I was kind of pulled into it to look at it deeper on a technical level with that, and came to find out that the way they actually do it is by setting up, just as you said, links that take you into the portal for the hosted content. From there, I just kind of jumped in. I realized then that they had a good implementation. I had fooled around slightly with another Steem video source, which is DTube, prior to Dlive. DTube is very similar in Dlive, except until recently it didn't have really a live streaming aspect. It was mainly trying to be a YouTube replacement of direct video upload. With that being said, it was fairly clunky. I actually just talked to Adam months back, trying to get Adam to bring his content over to DTube. He tried it out once and realized it just wasn't for him. I think his upload failed multiple times because they was using the interplanetary file system to actually store the videos, which caused a huge buffer in both uploading and then downloading. If there wasn't anybody hosting the file, it was very tough to get it to play. I saw a different change in that for Dlive, which actually allowed it to be as hosted content. So that meant that videos, even if they're older videos, you could click on them and they'd start playing. That made me realize that it had the usability aspect, and with the tokenization aspect of Steem, I couldn't see any reason why it wouldn't be one of the first true contenders to come after the big boys like YouTube and Twitch, with its ability to reward users on a basis that other major platforms just were not able to keep up with.
Okay, because right now what I've been doing is like this video is broadcast on the World Crypto Network, and then I've been uploading that video to Dlive. So it's not a DTube, it's a World Crypto on YouTube. And you know, currently, I mean, there's no reason to believe that World Crypto Network wouldn't one day move to DTube. But right now, that's just what I do. And you're saying there's still some technical issues that make it a little slower, but ultimately the goal is to have DTube as an extension of Steem be like YouTube.
Yep. Which for me, I'm more of a supporter of Dlive. So DTube's actually another product offering. I would compare them. So DTube, I kind of think of it a lot like YouTube. While I think of Dlive more like Twitch because of their focus on live streaming. They actually started with more of an emphasis towards their live streaming abilities, and that was kind of their go-to-market strategy. That being said, as you've seen, they work just as well by acting as a video upload service. It still keeps the videos immediately available. There's also reasons because DTube actually takes what Steem has called a beneficiary award. So if you post content through there, they actually retain 25% of whatever your video earns, and then it's redistributed through their beneficiary reward system that gives it back to people that upvoted it, while Dlive actually lets content producers retain 100% ownership of whatever Steem you earn from your videos.
So if I were doing my own video, it would be on Dlive, which would be, again, that would be the equivalent of a YouTube competitor.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And, you know, again, right now, this is not my channel, because I use the World Crypto Network channel, but perhaps the World Crypto Network channel. I mean, why would they not move over here, other than the fact that it's just an established channel? I mean, would it be harder to find if they went on Google to search for it?
I would actually argue that it would probably help increase them. One, because if you do many searches now, you can actually just type in a lot of things, and Steemit is amazing for its search engine optimization. So as far as being found, I think it would only increase their ability to be found due to the content being linked in 2 different places. So I really couldn't tell you any reason why people wouldn't want to cross-post content. There's no restrictions on if this has been on YouTube before, you cannot have it here. There's nothing like that. So it's one of those that I literally can't think of any reason why you wouldn't want to engage with a new audience here on the Steem blockchain, especially if you're crypto related. And
then, you know, the last part of this question, which I want to get a little deeper into it, is, again, before you answer, I had asked, if someone said to you, they attacked and said Steem and Dlive, they're centralized as opposed to Bitcoin, so the government could just shut them down. You know, I want you to tell us how you would refute that, because, again, even as much as I follow the space, the line between centralized and decentralized can be very fuzzy. In some cases, like Bcash, it couldn't be more obvious. You have Bitmain telling you that they own pretty much the biggest position, and all the decisions are made by them. With Ethereum, the government just ruled that it's not a security, because it sounds to me, I mean, the way I see it, it's become decentralized enough that even if they, you know, raided the Ethereum Foundation, Ethereum would still be there. So I'm trying to figure out what the, you know, what if the government didn't like what Dlive was doing, or Steem? How would could they stop it, or is it already decentralized enough that they couldn't?
Dlive would be a little bit more of an interesting case than Steem itself. Dlive, because it is a private company, could technically be censored. They do have the ability, since the video is hosted on their own servers, they could pull it down. For instance, any content that is deemed a copyright violation, such as somebody trying to upload a movie or different things like that, there has been actions to pull videos like that off of the platform. So Dlive could, in essence, be censored.
And that's illegal stuff. I mean, they do that on Google. You can't take a pirate a movie and put it up on.
Correct. Yep. But my fear would always be that in the wrong influence, that the same issues that we've seen on YouTube could theoretically happen to Dlive. But that being said, the ability of Steem itself is much harder to censor, because where it is just a text file, you could go back now with the newest update to the Steem blockchain, you're able to actually edit a post. So you could theoretically save your video file that was, if Dlive was ever to become censorship prone, you could save that video file and then upload it to something like the interplanetary file system that is non-censorable, and users could still reach your content irregardless of any actions Dlive would in the future possibly take.
And of course, you know, when I'm talking about censorship, I mean, look, if the government wants to come in and take down stuff everywhere, like if they deem something offensive that's on Dlive, they could say the same thing about something that's on Facebook. They could come in and say, we want to ban Alex Jones. I'm talking about more like what Google is doing, saying we own the network and we've decided we don't like the content of our content producers, so we're going to demonetize or ban it. Is that something that can happen in Steem, and is it something that can happen in Dlive?
The only thing that you could really point to on Steem is there is the ability to flag posts. So rewards that are earned on the Steem network are based on the amount of Steem power that is held by the user that is voting. So as people are going through and upvoting content and making it known that they support it, that based on their Steem power, that's what determines how much monetary value goes to the video. There have been arguments that I've had with others that say that that could be censorship, because people can take away from your rewards, because just like an upvote, you can issue a flag, which essentially takes away the rewards based on the Steem power that you have.
And but is it, quote, management that owns? I mean, it's not like the management team has all, yes, I know that there are some quote whales who are probably part of the dev team or friends of the dev team, but it's not like the management team holds all the rewards. And I mean, they are circulated throughout the system. I have Steem Power, you have Steem Power.
Correct. Yeah, you're dead on with that. And it's only becoming more and more decentralized over time. If you look back a year ago, the level of centralization was much higher than what it is now with whales. In fact, a Steem user by the name of Taskmaster has recently posted a couple of great posts that look at the level of rewards that are held by whales, orcas, dolphins, which are just different levels of how much Steem power you hold. And whales are probably the largest declining level of ownership, while minnows and dolphins are increasing up the ladder. So it's becoming a much more wider open space of distribution for the Steem power.
That's the same thing with Bitcoin. The more people use it, the more miners you have, the more owners you have, the more exchanges you have, the more wallets. And that's exactly, there's definitely a critical mass in Steem. And you see it even in the price. I mean, it's one of the few cryptos that is not at lows. It came out trading at 60 cents or so 3 years ago, and now it's close to $1. It's been as high as $7 or $8, and it's because it's getting more dispersed. In fact, if you could send me that file, that I'll put it in the show notes to show how the whales. Because again, people, the less that the quote whales own of the Steem power, the more decentralized it is. But again, for a network that was created, to me, I mean, it was by Dan Larimer, principally as a crypto-focused content provision network. I'm not really too worried that people who put out content about crypto are going to be hurt by the people who are running it, because we're the people who make Steem more valuable by promoting cryptocurrency.
I completely agree.
Okay, so. Okay, so now, as said before, I've been providing content on Steemit since June 2017, but have yet to master how to optimally utilize the site. Simplistically, I've merely converted the Steem power I have been awarded to Steem, and along with the Steem-backed dollars I was also awarded, sold them for Bitcoin. However, if I understand how the system worked, I'd likely have generated additional Steem and Steem-backed dollar rewards. So Patrick, you are a certified Steem expert, atop being an ambassador for Dlive. Thus, I'd love if you could explain how one can optimize their Steem and Steem-backed dollar awards.
So to me, it's about building community. Just as you would on any traditional social network, the biggest aspect of growing your rewards here is by increasing the size of your community. So to me, it comes down to engaging with other content producers that are like-minded to you, and building the relationships where you can build your base of support that is constantly behind you. That being said, it's definitely a huge beneficial factor to take your earnings of Steem and Steem-backed dollars to convert those over to Steem power, thus increasing your own vote, allowing you to not only monetize your own content, but more importantly, monetize your interactions with others. So as users begin commenting on your material, I find it very beneficial to, if they have an interesting point that they bring up about any content being made, to both reward them, maybe on their comment, but also if they have interesting content that they're producing outside of that, to show them the appreciation that you would have there. A lot of it's the same as what you'd find on Facebook or Twitter, anything like that. You want to build your core base of support as wide as you can. Wow.
And as you say it, because again, Adam, I mean, I can't even tell you how many good things have come of my relationship with Adam. And it just seems one after the other, one of them being, Dlive, I'm just using it. And then, he said, you should try it. And I did. And then I met you, for instance, who are teaching me how to use this network. And among other things, again, Adam would just say, yeah, you get, why would you own it when you can get it for free? And that's true. That's what I've done. But now I'm starting to realize how it works. The whole point is, when you have Steem power, people, this is something I do know, it takes time to quote power down. Meaning if you have Steem power and you want to sell it, let's say for Bitcoin, because you can sell it, well, you can sell for any crypto pretty much. But if you want to sell for Bitcoin, you have to power down, which means it takes 13 weeks to do it. because it takes, whatever that is, 7% of whatever you have every week. And so in 13 weeks, all of your Steem power is converted to Bitcoin. You can sell it, but it takes a long time on purpose because they're trying to disincentivize you from selling it. If you keep it as Steem power, you can't just sell it for Bitcoin because you have to power down, but you have more power in the network. And as you're saying, the more people that you support, meaning you give, you upvote or re-steam their articles or up-steam their Dlive videos, the more they will give it back to you and spread the word of you. And therefore, you can build a huge amount of Steem power by networking, and as opposed to just selling it for Bitcoin. And you could do that too. I mean, you could just sell it for Bitcoin. But now I'm seeing what you're saying. You're incentivized to stay on the network with the Steem power and use it to network. And I will also tell people one more thing. Again, there's very few cryptos I believe in. I believe in, obviously, Bitcoin. I will be believing, right behind me you see B-Rhodium, that's going to be launching, although that came for free too. And I believe that Steem is an actual platform that's going to work and grow in time. So it becomes very, very valuable to be a content provider with support when the price is high. I can tell you that when the price of Steem was $7 and the price of Steam-backed dollars, which are supposed to be pegged to $1, went to like $13, the rewards for single posts were very, very high for content providers with support. And I believe that the network has a lot of growth. So this is the time to network when people are really holding on to their Steem power more, because trust me, when it becomes more valuable, people become far more liberal with it. Is that a good description of how the network works, Patrick?
I think that is an excellent way to look at it. And I really want to hit home with right now is the best time to produce the content, because while you might be being rewarded with a lower United States dollar amount of crypto, you're still being rewarded with the same amount of Steem. So a post that earns 1 Steem today, if you're confident that we can see prices return to the same level of $10, posting a picture that may only get $1 worth of upvotes could easily be worth $10 down the road once you see prices restore to those former all-time highs.
Right, as Adam would say, 1 Bitcoin equals 1 Bitcoin. It's funny that you should bring this up, because when he says stuff like, well, for all you people that care only about fiat, I don't care, and I'm going, no, that's not how you people look at the world. Of course you care about the fiat, especially if it's a significant part of your portfolio, because that's your net worth, and you need money to live on, and you also need money to be comfortable with. Everyone doesn't have more than they can need or no costs in life. So that is one way of looking at it. But in this particular case, it is exactly right. I'm working as hard as I can to get as much Steem or Steem power as I can, because ultimately I do believe that the prices that we saw back in January will be revisited. So lastly, regarding this topic, God, we still have to talk about the markets today. I'd like to know what innovations are being worked on in Steem and Dlive to raise its awareness, improve its efficiency, and increase the odds of taking market share from YouTube in the coming months and years. To be clear, I am in no way, quote, recommending purchase of Steem, given my goal of driving early crypto investors to the coin with the best risk-reward profile, i.e. Bitcoin. However, many investors are interested in speculating, and as noted above, I too recently speculated in the Steem cryptocurrency. And for those people, I'd like to give Patrick the opportunity to pitch them as to why he believes Steem will be a good investment. And also, as I said before, what is being done on Steem to make it better?
So this is a pretty wide-ranging topic. I can point to at least 3 things off the top of my head, which would be the most important factors. One would be the appearance of dApps. You're seeing them very heavily on Ethereum, and there's a lot of media buzz about Ethereum's usage of dApps. But on Steem, we're seeing them, but we're also seeing more usage by leaps and bounds over what Ethereum has. Dlive itself would be considered a dApp, while you would also see stuff like Steepshot, which is a replacement for Instagram. Fundition.io, which is a replacement for Kickstarter or GoFundMe. There is Musing.io, which is a replacement for Quora, the question and answer service. You can even point to Steem Gigs, which would be a replacement for services like Fiverr or any type of economy-based services. There's even Steem Hunt, which I've done a post on today, which is a replacement for Product Hunt that rewards people for searching out new products on the web and sharing them on the Steem blockchain. So to me, that's one of the largest things, is this creation of smaller communities that are going to allow everyone to find their home, just as I've talked about finding my home on Dlive, where I feel most comfortable creating content. These dApps are going to allow everyone to do that same thing. You may not be like me and enjoy video content, but maybe you really enjoy sharing pictures, just like on Instagram, which is what it seems like a lot of the younger generation's really into. Why not do that same action and get rewarded for it, as opposed to just giving it away to Facebook to harvest the data from? Along that same lines, there is a new feature that's going to be enabled on the network and come in March. The testnet's going to be released in January, called Smart Media Tokens. These Smart Media Tokens is going to be very similar to what you would see in ERC20 tokens, except they'll follow the distribution channel similar to what Steem has done. With them, anybody can create their own token that will reward people for utilizing their dApp. So you will see some that's already created, like Steem Hunt. They are creating a hunt token that allows you to be rewarded for utilizing their services. While at the same time, right now, if you're a Steem Power holder, they're doing a redemption of 1-to-1 hunt tokens to your Steem Power, very similar to crypto dividends that we've seen on Bitcoin, but in the own economy within Steem itself. And then the third one I'd point to is actually coming up later this month, which is Hard Fork 20. It's going to change some of the rules that are functioned into the blockchain. The one that's most important to me is account creation. So for anybody that's new to the Steem chain, you've probably encountered signing up for an account, but then waiting 1 to 2 weeks to even get an email back to get a password to even go in to do much with it. With Hard Fork 20, it's going to allow these different dApps and their communities, based on their Steem Power, to access what they call discounted account creation tokens. So you will be able to go to Dlive and sign up for an account and not have to wait for weeks for Steem or Steemit to create your account. They will be able to create an account directly with that based on the Steem Power they hold. So it's going to be another resource level that's added to the Steem blockchain.
Like Dlive, its own community within Steemit. There's going to be, because you log in, you can say log in through Steemit, log in through other things that kind of can be interconnected. Exactly.
Yep. But the problem right now, as it stands, is if you log in with Google or Twitter, different sign-ins that they offer outside of Steem, you have a fairly limited account ability. You can mainly just chat with people, follow people, but you can't actually go through and like content to give them Steem rewards because you don't have a Steem account. What Hard Fork 20 will allow is for dApps like Dlive to create an actual Steem account. So they'll be able to onboard a new user that will have the ability to begin liking content. Thus, if the World Crypto Network's viewers decided they wanted to reward you, they could sign on the same day as seeing that video and begin rewarding you, as opposed to getting lost in that trail of waiting for a couple weeks and losing that enthusiasm that they may have at the beginning of learning about Steem. So I think that's going to be a huge game changer.
How many devs are involved in Steem, and are they the same devs that are involved in Dlive?
So it would be tough for me to really put a number to it. I'm not really sure how much Steemit, the main company behind the blockchain, has. But that being said, that's one of the things that excites me most as a Steem holder, is the decentralized nature that we're starting to see with Steem. You're beginning to have projects, one being Steem smart contracts, which is similar to a ERC protocol that's being built on it, but it's not being built by the Steem team. It's actually being built by devs completely outside of it. As far as Dlive, it's a completely different project from Steemit. So all the devs that are working for Dlive are their own in-house team that's outside of.
Right. It's a company, as you said.
Exactly.
Right. Is it planned to be I don't even know what you call it, public company like with ICO, or right now it's just, where does it get its funding from?
To my knowledge, I've not heard if they plan to do any type of token. I would have to imagine that once smart media tokens are released, that they would at least explore that opportunity to create their own token and utilize it. One thing I could see without knowledge of what their plans are would be to enable advertising. So a quick ad before a show, you could take that reward and only sell it through your Dlive token, and thus create a closed loop economy that would support the value of the token while also giving a new revenue stream to anybody that's producing content on your ecosystem. And that's the same way for nearly all of these dApps that are being created. And that's the thing to me, is the level of engagement that is being produced outside of just the Steemit interface that Steem is known for really leads to me that it's poised for a great breakout, as everybody's favorite niche of accessing the internet is available to them on the Steem blockchain, so they can be rewarded and tokenize their own efforts.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, we'll end it there. But I mean, that was a fabulous discussion. I think very educational about how Steem and Dlive work. I think there's a lot of mystery out there, and I really look. I'm just telling people I've been using it for a while, Steem and now Dlive, and I think they're fantastic. And and it clearly is becoming more decentralized and more innovative. So we'll see what happens. By the way, I like your Guy Fawkes mask. Perfect for a Bitcoin video. Okay, so finally, I guess I would say the topic people most want to hear about. I'm so sick of talking about it, but that's my life, and that is the current crypto market conditions, which at least until 5:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time this morning could not have been more indicative of a return to a Bitcoin-led bull market. From the end of the Mt. Gox trustee saga to the rapidly approaching end of Bitmain's non-fundamentally driven Bitcoin sell-off, to the rapidly dying, comically stupid ETF denial meme, it appeared that the post-bubble consolidation had largely run its course, with, of course, many extremely powerful bullish catalysts on the near-term horizon. However, or moreover, in continuing to believe that despite the carnage, the altcoin sector despite the carnage, the altcoin sector as a whole had acted remarkably resiliently, setting the stage potentially for a renewed rally, led by the handful of altcoins like Steem, in my view, with viable long-term use cases. However, this morning's flash crash at 5:45 on relatively low volume has again renewed the FUD and TA doomsayers that have falsely prophesized Bitcoin's doom all year, even if it just took the price down to where it was a week ago. The only news I could find, which I say in quotes to mock, is that according to the UK Insider, sources say Goldman Sachs, while still seeking to create institutional custodial services for crypto, will not be opening a crypto trading desk anytime soon. And so the great consolidation of 2018 continues amidst the most bullish ever Bitcoin fundamentals. So Patrick, what's your take on this morning's flash crash, and how do you see the current state of the crypto market in terms of Bitcoin, altcoins, and whatever major issues are most on your mind?
I have to admit that I'm very much of the same mindset as Adam, that one Bitcoin still equals one Bitcoin. To me, while it's discouraging to see the price be stuck in a looming factor like this, it doesn't really matter. We're still building an asset that is outside of the range of anything that's ever came before it, and will continue to grow regardless of daily price fluctuations. So I don't see any reason to think that while we may see ups and downs, that the overall trend is continuously moving up in a radical progression comparatively to other assets.
And what do you think, generally speaking, about altcoins in general? Obviously, you're very much into Steem, but I mean, where do you stand on the maximalism scale? I mean, what percent of the sector do you think is for real? And do you think the sector is going to be very for real in the coming years?
I can see that there will be use cases for altcoins, but primarily if it's an altcoin that deals with the financial sector, I don't see how it can continuously hold value to something like Bitcoin, even if it does have an innovation that may be something that could be brought to Bitcoin. I don't see why we wouldn't just adopt that feature into the Bitcoin protocol and thus enable those functions there. That being said, there are use cases like Steem that aren't, in my opinion, trying to take on being a currency so much as they are being a beacon of free speech. And with that same being said, I'm sure there will be other alts that will establish themselves in realms that aren't necessarily revolving around being a currency or even a communication platform, but may have other use cases. So I'm sure that there will be others, but primarily a lot of the top alts that you would see from the coin market cap, I can't imagine that 30 years from now, many of them will retain value in comparison to Bitcoin or even Steem.
Right. You know, I wrote something a few months back called Cryptocurrencies versus Securities. And I was trying to, again, this is, you know, kind of refuting or at least backing off this maximalist view that Bitcoin is the only thing that can exist, because again, Bitcoin doesn't do everything. It doesn't seek to do everything. As you said, what it seeks to do is be money. It doesn't seek to be a social media platform. It doesn't seek to do a lot of things. And in the digital age, a lot of legacy things are going to be replaced by digital assets. And that's why I talk about ICOs one day replacing stocks and bonds. I think that, you know, they will have to evolve in time to something that works, as opposed to the initial just, you know, pump and dump schemes. But, you know, there is going to be plenty of use cases out there. And in many cases, they're simply going to be seen by financial people as investments, not money. And that's what the maximalists, I don't think, understand. They think that they don't realize that Bitcoin is not trying to be everything. All it needs to do is be money. And it will. I think it already is taking on, I think it's already in many ways to put a big dent in precious metals and ultimately will destroy them. And as for the other monetary aspects, that will take time. And there will be many other cryptos that are going to be successful. As for what I see today in this, call it whatever you want, look, we are still in this, you know, I guess I'm an impatient person at the same time as being very patient. I'm the ultimate hodler. I've been holding and holding for years. I don't worry about anything. I don't like price declines. I especially don't like doomsayers and fudsters trying to scare us, often without any knowledge of what they're talking about. In many cases, they are compromised, and in other cases, they just have wrong information, or they're from the status quo and want Bitcoin to die. But the fact is, we did go through an absolutely massive bubble at the end of the year, but most of the bubble was the beginning of the year when all the altcoins were pumped by Wall Street. And that takes time to go away, because a lot of these things, you know, we're sitting here talking about how Steem is more functional than Ethereum. And I agree with that. I think, you know, again, I'm a layman, and I'll ask your opinion on this. When I look at Ethereum, I think, okay, so its big thing was it helped to create a lot of worthless altcoins. That's what it did. And now that business, quote, has died because the market is down, it doesn't do anything. Whereas Steem, every day it's doing something and innovating to do more. I mean, is that essentially what we're talking about here? Use case versus false use case. And in many cases, never had a use case.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, to me, it comes down to the fact that you look at Steem and it has the ability to have 3-second confirmation times with tens of thousands of transactions per block, as opposed to Ethereum with roughly a 7-second transaction time. And I can't think of the top, but how many transactions they can actually fit. Regardless, there's just so much more space to do things with on the Steem chain. Not to mention the expandability by adding subchains and such that may be able to be added in the future.
Right. Yeah. So again, you know, my final thought on Bitcoin is what it always is. I'm not worried at all. I'm always fearful, just like everyone else, because it's such a volatile asset and you have to deal with this stuff all the time. And it is a big part of my life. But I know I feel stronger than ever about its fundamentals. As I said this morning, I wrote about, well, I've called this the bear market with no bad news. And I said my motto on days like this is always, you know, good luck finding the bad news, because you're not going to. And as Bitcoin becomes more decentralized and the network grows stronger, the odds of, quote, bad news are going to be less and less. And the same goes for Steem. Steem is becoming more decentralized and stronger with more developers. I think it's not a comparison to Bitcoin. I just think it's a very interesting $275 million market cap in a world where I think trillions are going to be moving over to crypto from legacy markets. I think it's a decent speculation, but then again, I have more than 99% of my portfolio in Bitcoin, and that's generally what I do, and that's all that I tell people to do. So with that, we're going to conclude today's extremely informative podcast and timely, given the explosion of the censorship revolution that I think will be a major political and economic issue for years to come, featuring Patrick Ulrich of Dlive and Lexington Bitcoin Consulting, who can be reached at Patrick_Ulrich and LexingtonBitcoinConsulting.com. As for me, please check out my daily blog at CryptoGoldCentral.com. Follow me on Twitter at Andy_Hoffman_CG, or contact me about crypto-related consultations at ahoffman@CryptoGoldCentral.com. Thanks very much. Thank you, Patrick, and have a great crypto day.